So, Sunday, another Sunday. Sunday with its morning news talk shows. Meet the Press, Face the Nation. Meet the Press, they always say, the longest running news show in history. I suppose it is. Then there's Face the Nation, or did I already mention that? And all three networks have similar formats on Sunday morning. So it's not easy. It's easy to guess what they're talking about this particular Sunday. For one thing, they're going to be talking about the apparently imminent Russian invasion into Ukraine. They'll be talking about that for sure. They may touch on the matter of inflation, which, as more and more people worry these days, since it does not seem to be going away anytime soon. And then there's the ongoing problem of businesses with, say, a large number of employees, and particularly schools, who can no longer function because so many of the staff are now sick with COVID-19. And in schools, staff and students, of course, and faculty, they're all in the same building. They're all breathing the same air. And the social policy, public health policy are now clashing, particularly in Bible Belt states. I wonder why. It's a pathetic disunion of this country. Now, at the opposite extreme, you'll find China and the way they go about doing things there to secure their public health. And it is draconian. It is exceedingly thoroughgoing and draconian, thanks to the digital age and all the flippin' cameras they have all over the place, all over there. Not to say that the United States doesn't have their share of outdoor cameras, and we have plenty of them, just like England. So we're living in a day now when there is no longer, at least in cities, what you might call unsurveilled public space. It's all surveilled all the time. And there's not only visual surveillance, there's audio surveillance in the form of the National Security Agency tapping into what they call metadata concerning phone calls over cell phones. They capture the nodes of these communications and the frequency of occurrence between any two nodes. That's all there, and they still look at it. What we don't know is how deeply penetrating this surveillance has become. That's a big question here in the United States. We know how deep it is in China. That's self-evident from any worthy news source. And I'll give you a definition of a worthy news source. They write news stories based on factual information, which they collect. And an unworthy news source is a group of so-called journalists, they're not, who purport to convey the news when they don't, because they're not conveying facts, they're conveying opinion, they're conveying fabrication, they're conveying destructive lies, as in the case of the on what we call Fox News. They have many supposedly expert guests who make pronouncements about the ineffectiveness of COVID-19 vaccinations. And it's not misleading. It's just an outright piece of propaganda, a willfully constructed, erroneous piece of propaganda. And they do this more or less for the sole purpose of gaining money for their campaign funds. And recently, within the last few days, in fact, especially since the text messages between Mark Meadows and Kellyanne Conway were disclosed, and they show in plain language how the Trump administration at the highest levels were entertaining ideas passed to them by Fox News and indirectly by Rupert Murdoch, who owns Fox News. And I suppose it was a two-way street. Sometimes Trump wanted something, an interview, and he got it. And then he could declaim his preposterous views to the public. He'd say one thing one week, and then he'd say the polar direct opposite the next week. And he did things on live news broadcasts that were not only preposterous, that they were just downright dangerous. His endorsement of bleach drinking and ivermectin, for example, as remedies for COVID-19, as though there were any, apart from the vaccination. There are not. Well, now they've developed some